Hey there, I'm Brie Stockwell, and this is The Complete Creative, the podcast for passionate creatives and visionaries who want it all: meaningful work, epic ideas, and a beautiful life. Around here, we ditch the hustle, get intentional, and make space for success that actually feels good. Welcome back, everyone. So today I want to start this podcast by asking you if you have ever felt like your creativity had just disappeared. I feel like 100% of us have had that happen to us. They're just gone. All our ideas floated out the door. So I worked with this client once, and one of the things they brought to the table was that they felt that all their ideas were gone. Like somehow that creative ideas were blocked from coming in. And I wanted to mention that because you would think that we would go straight into like solving the problem. And what I want to tell you is that our initial work together was actually just releasing the idea that a block exists. Because when you feel like you're butting up against some sort of a wall, then there's nowhere else to go. So this is some of the work that we're going to do together today. And I wanted to start off this work by asking this question. When you feel like you have some sort of a block, like what if that feeling isn't actually a block at all? What if it's actually an invitation? So often when this happens to us, it feels heavy and we feel stuck. And of course, then it feels like we're hitting a wall. But if we can pause and reframe like that block into actually a signal for something, that it's the start of something or a sign for you to do something different, then that's going to be so much more helpful for helping you move forward. Okay, so here's the thing. When we call it a block, we make it sound very permanent, like we're stuck in mud, stuck in glue, blocked by a wall, something like that. You get the picture. And if instead it was a signal, if it was your mind and body letting you know it's time to shift how you're approaching the work, what then? What would open up for you? What would you do next? So when we feel this way, and I don't know about you, but when I feel this way, what I really want is I want all my ideas, all my creativity just to flow. Like what's happening is we're confronted by this feeling that they're not flowing. And so we're feeling the contrast of it. So when you feel this way, stuck in some way, here are some signs. And why I'm telling you this is so that instead of saying I'm blocked, you will recognize the signs, because what we actually don't want to do is to force it. So there's feeling blocked and then trying to force it versus allowing ideas, creativity to flow. Okay, so if you're trying to force it, if you feel this way and you're trying to force it, then here are some signals that you can pay attention to. The work feels heavier than usual. Another one, you keep circling in the same sentence, like idea, sketch, whatever it is that you're working on, you just keep circling around like a hamster wheel and you don't make progress. If you finish a session, your time block, feeling drained instead of energized, that's also a signal that it's being forced. So one of the things I think we don't want to do is actually to force it, because I don't know about you, but when my work is forced, it feels stunted. It doesn't feel as alive or as aligned or as good. It doesn't feel as good. Like I think the work is better when we allow it to flow. So if you feel that you're forcing something, meaning it feels heavier or you feel like your energy is draining instead of being re-energized, You may decide to take a step back for a second. Another one is if you feel resentful or bored, and if the project feels flat and joyless, like, I've just got to get this done. There are other ways than to force through it. And I'll tell you about those in a second. I think at this time, it's important to distinguish between signals that you're forcing it, or if it's just like nerves, or there's some sort of discomfort happening. And it might be okay to move past the resistance of that. So if the discomfort feels like a little bit of fear of maybe not feeling like being good enough, that's just a little bit of nerves. I think you can move past that. So sometimes once we get started, we think it's a block and there's this sentence happening, oh, I'm not good enough. And we get started and it just goes. Or it's possible that sometimes excitement, like it's kind of like an excitement overwhelm, and that gets tangled up in the resistance and there's like competing emotions. You can move past that and allow the emotions to just settle. So one of the things that's interesting for me is like, I sometimes get so excited that I have like too many things happening in my mind, and it will feel like a block because there's too much happening. And so what I like to do is actually, and I'll tell you some of the exercises in a minute, but I will employ one of these, usually it's a walk, and allow the emotions to settle before I start, because I want to work on the ideas that feel aligned. So sometimes there's like too many ideas, if that makes sense. So again, forcing feels like heaviness, endless tweaking, like the perfection, the endless tweaking. And also, if you feel drained, then you may be forcing it. Just notice, like if your shoulders feel tight. Flow, notice this is the contrast to feeling forced. Flow feels like your energy returning, curiosity leading. So if you start to feel more curious, that's a place of openness and flow versus feeling stuck, nothing's happening, or it has to be this way. You could have some perfection. So the perfection sometimes will block you from being curious about what happens if I play with this here. And also, flow feels like you're more energized, or you're more awake, or you feel more alive than before. So reframing it into a feeling instead that's signaling to you for something. And the signal is telling you that it's an invitation to shift how you're doing something. So here's how we're going to shift from force into flow. When you notice the signal, meaning when you notice this feeling, the hamster wheel thing, the heaviness, the drained energy, when you notice that, here are some moves that you can make. My favorite actually is step away briefly. So if you can step away and remove yourself from the work, it kind of gives you a new perspective. So you can walk. I like walking. In fact, I have something for this. It's called Creative Walks Club, and it starts September 1st. If you're listening to this before September 1st, 2025, it's 2 weeks of intentional walks, that double duty where you can create on purpose. So it's like you move your body and your mind at the same time. I'm really excited about this. So if you like this kind of container where you have an assignment and then you go try it out and you see what happens, there's going to be prizes. And there's also going to be a VIP portion where if you are in that, you can access a group chat with me so I can help you integrate what you're discovering on your walks. That's going to be really fun. Okay, so you can walk. You can stretch. If you are a yogi, you can just twisting your muscles, stretching your body, allowing blood to flow through your body in a different way. You can also do some breathing exercises. I have some other podcasts where I do some breathing exercises. You can do one of those. You can also shake out your body, like stand up and literally shake out your whole body like you were a wet dog. Actually, I love this one. Just anything to like get your brain away from the work that you're doing and the mindset that you're stuck. So sometimes actually moving your body will actually help you move out of a block. Another tactic is to switch modes. So you can move from what you're currently doing or forcing yourself to do and shift into something else that feels creative. Like if you're writing and you feel like it's forced, you could go cook. We all have to eat, right? Or you could pause, and I will do this actually sometimes. I have these little drawing sheets, and I'll do a Zentangle. If you know, I'll link to Zentangle in the episode notes. These are really fun because you just can have like a 3-inch by 3-inch square, and I will just start one of those. I may not finish it, but like I find that once I allow myself to like start one of those, then I can pause it and come back to what I'm working on, and it's already shifted my mind. One of the great reasons to use something like a Zentangle or doing something that's just pure play is because it's pure play, because it automatically shifts your mind into allowing yourself to play and allowing new things to flow. So shifting yourself into another outlet where you can automatically allow it to flow will get your brain and body flowing. And it's possible that you can come back to what you're doing and it will just go, which is really cool. Okay, so another thing that you can do, another tactic is to just go small. So sometimes we think we have to like do it all, or we have this like big project or big something and we're making a big deal about it. And sometimes when that happens, we sometimes can have that heavy, stuck feeling if we're putting a lot of pressure on ourselves. So if you can release the perfection by literally saying to yourself, what would it look like to just play here? And if I was just going to play an experiment, what's like the next little playful thing that I could do? Knowing that you can throw it away, that it's not a big deal, sometimes that will help get your brain going. So just like a loose, scrappy version of whatever it is that you're doing without needing it to be the finished thing. And really small, like not a big grandiose thing, not just a really small next step. So far we've talked about reframing what a block is, knowing how it feels, what it looks like, and the idea that it is signaling something to us, like that maybe we want to step away or that we're forcing an idea. And I also want to add this because as a coach, I always feel like it's helpful to, after we've kind of neutralized the feeling or reframed the idea, then it is about how we move forward and how we move forward with a greater momentum. So, what if that feeling that you're having, that you're calling stuck or a block, isn't proof that something wrong? But what if it's proof that something new is ready to come forward? What if it's the signal that maybe there's new ideas or ideas that want to flow forward from you in new ways, that those are trying to be released? And by you doing what you've always done before, those aren't allowed to come out. And so having that stuck feeling could be a sign that there are new things ready to emerge. So interesting, if you felt like it was this way, would you then feel excited when you started to feel like something was stuck? If you felt stuck, would you force the work? Or would you pause and ask yourself, is there something new that wants to come forward? Maybe there's some level of excitement there. So you can always ask, like, what is this moment? What is this feeling trying to tell me or teach me? Is there something new ready to come through? So just wanted to loop this back to the story about one of my clients. They moved beyond this block or this feeling of being blocked in the most amazing, magical way. Once they could see that there were always new ideas ready to come forward and they always had access to them, I don't even know if that feeling is ever a problem. And I actually use this idea too, because I believe my work with my clients also informs me. Like I also learn from my clients in the most amazing ways. So being in the belief that ideas were always at the ready and that my client always had access to them whenever they wanted is like really magical. So there was never like a block or a feeling stuck because there was always access, continuous access. I also want to pause here because I'm almost at the end of this, but I want to say like sometimes that stuckness is because there is something else you need to do. So maybe the stuckness is feeling because you need to go cry. That's usually mine. Maybe the stuckness is because there's something that's even more of a priority for you that you haven't tended to, like you are working out of alignment and you're forcing this thing to get done versus the actual other priority. It could be one of those things, or even something else. Like, is there something that you haven't tended to that wants your attention? That wants your attention in the moment. So when you come upon this feeling again, now you have some new ideas of what you can do with it. Because like you could just ignore it and push forward. And I believe that's creating out of alignment. But you can, like work does get done this way. We all have done work this way. But if you want the work to feel better, then you may stop to pause and ask yourself, what do I want to have happen here? Do I want to move forward with flow? Is there something else I need to attend to? Is there a way, like, how can I release this idea? Maybe I'm forcing something. Maybe I'm forcing it and I don't want to. And how can I release that? You can choose flow on purpose. Always. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And the last thing I'll say is if you resonated with this conversation, this is the kind of work that I help my clients navigate. So if you're ready to move from forcing to flow, you can go to creativemindscoach.com for more on how we can co-create that together. All right, that's it. And I will chat with you on the next episode. Bye.